Welcome to QUIZZY Monday, and this episode of QUIZZY Monday is dedicated to Vadim Bondar, the founder of the Knowledge Facts Ladder, a Quiz Pantheon inductee, and he's a quizzer who lives in Kharkiv, Ukraine. He and his family's country are enduring some terrible times right now, and we all know about that. It renders the ups and downs of the world of quiz truly insignificant by comparison. His presence in our community is a blessing, and his health, his well-being, is important to us. So we send our love and our best wishes to Vadim, and we hope it's not too long before we are quizzing with you again soon. And aside from sending our best wishes to Vadim, we have a great show for you tonight. We have Kit Lane, fresh from her Mastermind semi-final. We have James Devine-Stoneman and Thomas de Bock with us as well. We've got episode 3 of Quizzer in a Reasonably Simple Quiz. We've got Quiz Week with our nominations for Quizzer and Team of the Week. We'll have the champagne moment of the night. And of course, you have the opportunity to put your questions and comments in the chat. Before I ramble on for too long, let's bring everybody onto the stream. So let's welcome Kit, James, and Thomas. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome all. Now, Kit, we saw you on screen just now. What was it like, seeing yourself in that semi-final? And it was such a fiercely contested semi-final. Did you kind of feel the nerves all flooding back to you?
Yeah, before it came on, I think about 10 minutes before, I said that I could feel the heart palpitations kicking in, which I think half the people I've told thought it was filming live tonight, and they kept wishing me good luck, which was lovely. But I didn't have the heart to tell them that it already happened, but I was still absolutely in bits before watching it back.
Thomas, James, you've both done more than your fair share of TV quizzing.
Yeah.
Do you have that experience when your episode is coming on that you start feeling a little bit of nerves, and despite knowing that what's going to happen?
Absolutely. I mean, even though you remember the outcome, it's a few months in the past, so you can't quite remember every single question that came up unless you ruminate over every single wrong answer, but not the correct one, certainly. And while you're in the chair in that case, or just on set, you have no idea what you look like either. So there's always that little bit of anxiety of what if there was something wrong with my hair or whatever, and they just didn't tell me at the time. But just in general, right? Even though you've already lived it, sometimes you don't want to see it again, or it's just that uncertainty still, even though it's already something that's happened to you.
Yeah. James, how about you?
Yeah, I think probably sometimes more nerve-wracking watching it back. I don't know why that is, but doing University Challenge, we screened the episodes in the lecture theatre in college, and big crowds turned out from the college. And when there's that buzz around before the episode's coming on, for some reason, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen in each episode, it was somehow nerve-wracking. And I don't know what it was that made it's just that buzz, that excitement. And yeah, you're in control when you're doing it. You're in control, so you're focused on the question. So I guess your mind's a little distracted, at least while you're in the moment.
Indeed. Well, we've got some comments coming through. Catherine saying, "How do we all do tonight, quiz-wise?" And Gerard reporting his scores. Michael 10 on Formula One. That's pretty good. Catherine didn't keep score, and a few comments about. Hope they're keeping our Mastermind hosts safe out there, because Clyde Myra's out in Ukraine. Likewise, Catherine, doing a great job in unimaginable circumstances. And Gerard, the fibers in the post. Just remembered, I got a video on Chinese dynasties to catch up on. Oh, yes, you have, on All Things Quiz. Kit, you won your first round match. Your specialist subject was Nell Gwyn.
Yeah.
What was the driving force behind Scott Pilgrim as your subject? Because it was absolutely clear that this was a subject you loved. The grin on your face was there.
So I'm a graphic designer and illustrator by trade, and the last year or two I've realised that I think my one great love is comics, and it's almost snuck up on me a little bit. I think over my shoulder you can see my stack of Mastermind reading materials and Scott Pilgrim. And I think at first it was a bit of a stab in the dark choosing Scott Pilgrim, because it was a series that I loved in my teens, but I don't think I ever finished it. It was one of those things when you read when you're 15 and you thought, oh, this is cool, this is a bit edgy, I kind of want to be Ramona Flowers. And I came back to it and I thought, oh, let's go for it. And originally when I applied for Mastermind, my semi-final subject was going to be the Scott Antarctic expedition. And it was only when I got to the semi-finals I said, I don't really want to learn about people dying in the Antarctic. I want to do something silly and I want to do something fun. So I said, can I swap for Scott Pilgrim? And they said, go for it.
And good choice it was, getting 14 out of 15. Were you kicking yourself on Earl Grey?
You know what? It completely escapes me. And sleepy time became a running joke between me and my mum, bless her. My mum's got no interest in comics, but she was quizzing me on Scott Pilgrim. And one of our favourite teas is a sleepy time tea, and it just became a gag for us, and it was all I could think of at the time. But I am a big tea drinker, and I'm slightly gutted that I didn't get the tea question right.
Yeah, I mean, nice little nod though to your mum. That must be good to kind of include her in that way.
Mr. Silly was her thing all the way through. She could not get over Mr. Silly because she read me Mr. Men when I was a baby, and I think I was feeling like an absolute goon when that question passed, just thinking about my mum.
For a lot of us, we're aware of Scott Pilgrim because of the film, the Edgar Wright directed film. How much, was that film a representation of one particular graphic novel, or kind of a conflation of a number of them?
I think that the film did a brilliant job of getting all 6 in the series into an hour and 45 minutes. And I think what the film did so brilliantly, besides having this absolutely stellar cast, 2 Marvel leads and who knows what else, the music in it was absolutely brilliant. I think I love the graphic novel, I love the format, but most of Scott Pilgrim is about the indie, the punk music, and you got that in the film. And I think that and it is what most people know of the graphic novel, and fair game, the film was absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. So you won. I've just made up a word. You won your first round heat, and I think I remember from when we were talking previously, that you didn't go into your first round heat thinking I'm going to win this. It was kind of going in for the experience, and really happy surprise.
Yeah.
Having won that first round heat, when you arrive at the studio for the semi-final, and everybody else has won, was that daunting or was it liberating? How did you feel?
I think in the first round, for me, it felt like I had, in a way, a bit of a point to prove. Although I didn't go in thinking I want to win this, but I think in the semis, although everyone was outstanding, the field had been levelled very slightly. But I think I was really very lucky. I mean, everyone I met were just the most lovely people. And I'm still in touch with Ian and Lucy, and unfortunately couldn't stay in touch with Ranveer because of GDPR. We couldn't quite nab his email address in time. But I think everyone, there was that little sort of tension of competition. We were all sitting in the hotel, but I think everyone was there for the fun until we were sat in chairs and we thought, okay, this is it now. We can't do anything about it, but we got this.
James, when you're in the University Challenge and you're in a similarly competitive environment, maybe you have a bit more knowledge of your opposition from other competitions or whispers of what's happened. But how did your team kind of relate to the other teams? Was there fraternization, or did you keep yourselves apart? Did you dig around for inside information? What was that kind of relationship like?
Yeah. So definitely within Cambridge, every year it happens. You quickly figure out who's got a place on the show, and there'll be a few sparring matches organised. So you have a pretty good idea of the strength of the opposition that year before you go. And in our year, we knew that. We thought that Corpus Christi, Cambridge, were our strongest from within Cambridge. That was captained by Joseph Kroll, who we all know in the quiz world. And exceptional quizzer. And we ended up, we knew that we would be facing them in round 2 if we won our first round match because of the filming, the way the filming worked. We were right at the end of round 1, and that's what happened. And we managed to win it. But we'd clocked them as our biggest rivals within Cambridge that series.
It was just a very strong series in general for teams that got knocked out in the second round. Chris Stern, Magdalen Oxford team, Niall Jones on Southampton as well got knocked out. It was a very, very tough series.
It's known as the round of death, isn't it? It's but you do get there's a lot of whisperings, and you get word of this team are good, that team are good. It all filters through.
And Thomas, you've been in kind of both seats. You've been in Mastermind, UC. How does it compare as that experience? Solo versus team. Having a group around you versus kind of mingling with strangers and opponents.
It's night and day, really. I mean, not exactly. Obviously, you're still preparing for a quiz either way, but it's a different dynamic in every aspect. Solo versus a team, you're preparing on your own. You don't have anyone else really to bounce things off of, especially as I was doing it in the middle of lockdown. And also just having to prepare for one-on-one. You have a question, name the answer. You have to wait until the end, and having to prepare for one single specific subject. They give you sources to revise with, as opposed to, okay, there's a restricted number of things that can come up, but it's still fairly wide and it's on the buzzer. They're very different ways of preparing. And I very much preferred preparing for University Challenge. I don't think that's a very controversial take. But they're absolutely very different. And a quizzer can be very good at one and not so good at the other. That's perfectly reasonable.
Different formats suit different people. Pam has dropped in, who was on the series a couple of weeks back. I've not watched myself back yet. Pam, you need to watch it. You did great. So, Kit, how did you prepare for your Scott Pilgrim? Graphic novels. Were you thinking of like the dialogue, the visuals, or how did you distill all that and then kind of learn it?
It was a funny old thing. I think it was a bit of a departure from Neil Gwynn and from Alexander Hamilton the first time around, I didn't really know where to start, and I was remembering things even down to what Scott wears a lot of slogan T-shirts, remembering what T-shirt he had on in what scene kind of thing. And I was trying to remember a little bit of the pictures as well as the dialogue. And there still was a lot of flashcards and taking notes as there was with a historical figure.
I mean, it worked, 14 out of 15. And that was hot on the heels of Lucy getting 14 out of 14, Ian getting 15 out of 15. When you're watching two people performing that well, what's going through your mind in the seat when you're waiting to go on?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say exactly what was going through my mind at the time. There were some profanities for sure. My dad actually asked me the very same question when we watched Lucy and Ian come out. She said, "What were you thinking?" And I said, "Yeah, there's some bad words going on there." And I was in absolute shock when Clive told me the score.
And so you got the score, and then you go and sit down, and presumably the words going through your head are slightly different.
They're a little bit lighter, a little more gentle, yeah. And I think, I know both times my specialist has always been stronger than my general, and I think it was reassuring to go into the general with a similar score to the first two seats.
Yeah, and is there a feeling of, I've nailed my specialist subject, I've done justice to it, whatever else happens, I can feel good about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think both times I'm a specialist, I've chosen something I really love. And I think for me, I'm a prepper. I like to revise, I like to study things, and I thought this is the way I do things. So I was glad to come away with a score that I was happy with. And general knowledge, it's just how the questions fall, isn't it? You can prepare so much and then you just don't know what you're going to get from there.
Yeah, indeed. That you have no control over that. It was interesting. There was a comment on Twitter about Ranveer. He scores 12 in his specialist subject, and they put, and he's still going to come last. It's like you must have known at that point. It's like we are in one hell of a heat. When 12, which from many heats was like the highest specialist subject score, is the lowest in your heat.
Absolutely. I mean, when people have asked me like, how did I do? I said, I can't say. And if they pushed me, I said, well, I got a better score than I did in the heat. And, my first time on Mastermind, I got 21, I came third. And then this time around, I got 21, I came first in my heat. So you just don't know how it's going to fall. It depends who you're up against on the day.
Yeah, it does. But it was a great competitive match. I'm just trying to remember now the order. So Ranveer came into general knowledge with 12 points. I have to say, I loved his Gingham Joe answer.
Gingham Joe, I love it so much. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, I just, the presence of mind to come up with a plausible, incorrect, but nonetheless plausible answer, which wasn't a million miles away from what Calico Jack. I thought that was fantastic on his part.
I can't tell you the joy that Gingham Joe has brought me.
Indeed. Well, you need to create a character called Gingham Joe, Kit. Then you have to when
I write my Nell Gwyn graphic novel, there's got to be a Gingham Joe lurking in the background there.
It does indeed. James, Thomas, what stood out to you, if anything, when you're watching Mastermind tonight?
Well, personally, I was mostly cooking dinner during the whole time. I had it on in the background, but I mean, I just appreciated, how diverse the specialist subjects can be. I personally appreciated Formula One content on Mastermind, as I always would. In particular, that they asked about Max Chilton, who's an absolute cult hero on some parts of the internet I frequent. So that, I mean, yeah, I just notice in general how much more fun it is to watch than it was in the Humphreys days, really. Even though they've not actually changed all that much, the atmosphere seems to be that little bit more, not necessarily relaxed, it's still Mastermind, but good-natured.
Yeah, it's a little bit lighter, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with a host that wants you to do well. And I think that's probably kind of the feel, the sense of feel. There's a good-natured vibe coming from Clive Murray, and yet he's still firing those devilishly difficult questions at you. James, any questions or anything that stood out for you?
Well, as usual, I sort of thought, which of these 4 subjects might I get something on? Thought maybe Studio Ghibli. I've seen a few of them, but I wasn't fully focused on the specialist subject rounds, but I couldn't pick up any of those. Without the prep, it's very rare that a subject comes along that I'll get a few on without prep. But yeah, it was just the standard all round really that stood out.
Yeah. Talking of Studio Ghibli, Kit, with your kind of background in graphic design, was that a subject where you were sitting there thinking, chipping in answers and enjoying that?
No, I have to say, I'm a very casual watcher of Studio Ghibli. I think I watched Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro maybe 10 years ago, and other than that, I'm really ignorant to it. But I think what a beautiful subject to study up on for Ian.
Yeah, he did really well on it, didn't he? 15 out of 15, Ian did brilliantly.
He was so happy doing it. You could see on his face the answer coming that he liked, and that's fantastic.
In many ways, I was very similar to you, actually, that both of you kind of two in a row were just like enjoying. You see that smile of recognition when you know where the question's going and it's something that means something to you.
Yeah.
That was lovely. In the general knowledge round, I like it when I learn something. I've heard of Magnox reactors for years. I didn't know that Magnox was this titanium external coating of fuel rods. It's like, oh, I have learned something. I'm not good at sort of science and engineering anyway, but now I've learned something. It explains, I thought it was a brand name. So so I quite enjoyed that. We've got a comment from Catherine. Pun of the night. Gerard is going to have to pick his game up. I know Gingham Joe's brother, Cotton Eye Joe. There you go. Gerard, that we'd have expected that from you rather than Catherine. So 5 points there for Catherine for the top pun. So you didn't win, but you can hold your head up high, really high, Kit. What were your kind of takeaways from the experience of Mastermind?
Oh, I've loved it. Absolutely loved it. I think it's this is my second time on Mastermind, but I think it's the most seriously I've taken it and taken quizzing. And I think you always be reading, always be picking stuff up. I've come away from it and I've met more people through it, and I think I would like to take quizzing more seriously or take it as a hobby kind of thing. And yeah, I think going forwards is something to pursue. Yeah. I do think that having Clive Myrie as the host was a different experience as well.
Definitely. Well, can we ask now that we didn't get used, what would have been your subject in the final?
It would have been the Scott Antarctic expedition.
So they...
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I love a doomed polar exploration. And I swapped for Scott Pilgrim at the last minute because I thought everything's a little bit too bleak at the minute. Let's go for some graphic novel because I didn't think I was going to make the final. So I'll take Scott Pilgrim and run with it.
Yeah, good subject. Dave has said, love Thomas's description of Max Chilton as an absolute cult hero.
He is. He really is.
Remind us who Max Chilton is.
He was an F1 driver for a bit less than 2 seasons. He was the teammate of the late Jules Bianchi when he was still with us. He is most notable really for finishing every single race in his debut season. Never scored a point, but beloved by a very small community of people.
Well, it's good that they were made happy. Michael McPartland often reminds us that he got a trip to Salem, Oregon, when he did the Salem witch trials. Salem, Massachusetts. Sorry, when he did the Salem witch trials, and you could have had a free trip to the South Pole if only they were still doing the trips.
That did cross my mind. When I was picking subjects, my mum said, "Could you not pick something to do with Hawaii?" You never know.
Sadly, they don't do the trips anymore, I don't think, and that would have blown the budget for like several series to come. But nice thought, very nice thought. Well, Kit, it's been a really good couple of performances from you. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, and I'm going to try and share my screen. I don't know if this is going to work. I might end up sharing what you're watching. Here we are. Let me just check. Sorry, bear with me. This is going to make great TV. I spotted this on Twitter tonight. I don't know if you saw it.
I have to admit, I've been avoiding Twitter.
Somebody drew this during the show. Can you see that?
I can't.
No.
Dagnabbit. Hang on.
I was going to draw Ramona Flowers in time for the semi, and I'm gutted that I didn't.
Right, I will try once more, and if this doesn't work, I will have to email it to you or send it to you. But somebody basically drew a picture of you and Ranveer.
Amazing.
Let me see. Hang on. There you go.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which I thought you as a sort of graphic artist would appreciate that they.
I love that. That's brilliant.
I'll send you a copy by email after the show.
Oh, thank you very much. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, cool.
Here's one of the perks. You often get a caricaturist or a sketch artist on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
It's great practice. I think I keep saying I should do it when watching telly.
And it's particularly good when it doesn't look like you're in court.
Yeah.
On a charge.
No passports this time.
But yeah, so I'll send you that. I'll also send you their Twitter handle. So if you do want to,
please do. It's absolutely amazing.
See the original post. But I think that was a lovely way to wrap up the series. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to have our third installment of Quizzer in a relatively simple quiz. This is 3 minutes of very, very fast quizzing. We are still looking for additional players to take us through to the end of this series. So if you want to play this, email us at allthingsquiz@gmail.com. But coming up now, we have Thomas. Sit back and watch this. So welcome, Thomas Hart. You are the third person to take on Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz. Hello.
Hello.
Glad it's good to have you. So as you know, there are 15 questions and only 3 possible answers across those 15 questions. You're playing for your place on the leaderboard, and the leaderboard will be determined firstly by the number of questions you get correct, and secondly by the speed of your answering. I will move on to the next question as soon as you answer. You only get to answer once. You can interrupt me, but an incorrect interruption will not only mean you get nothing right for that question, but it will also cost you a second on your overall time. Are you happy with the rules, Thomas?
Yep.
Okay, so now please pick set A or set B.
Set A.
Okay. So this is set A. Your answers are happy, rent, and watch. Happy, rent, watch. Watch, rent, happy. Those are your answers. So are you ready to get going?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. A McDonald's hamburger, French fries, and
Happy.
soft drink is just... According to the debut UK hit of Gwen Guthrie, there ain't nothing going on but the what?
Watch.
Although her real first name was Margaret, the wife of former
Happy.
US Vice President. In the King James Bible, what word is used instead of torn to describe
Rent.
what happens? In Much Ado About Nothing, Dogberry is the leader of which local police
Watch.
force? In graphic novels, what kind of men are Dr.
Watch.
Manhattan? What costs £750 for a Whitehall
Rent.
hotel? In Only Fools and Horses, the item that the Trotter brothers sell at Sotheby's for $6.2 million is Harrison's Lesser. What?
Watch.
The dwarf known in Italian as Gongolo is known by what name in the English version of Disney's
Happy.
Snow White? From 1952 until 1975, the BBC standard TV programmes for young children was called What with Mother?
Watch.
Which 1996
Rent.
Broadway musical? The second studio album by Dido was called Life for What?
Rent.
The government of Bhutan
Happy.
determines what could you do to
Rent.
a ghost on... Mumble is the name of the
Happy.
penguin and an... That is it. Those are your questions. 15, all gone very quickly in a flash, Thomas. Thomas has also scored 14 points, but with a time of 64.36 seconds, it places him third on the table behind Emma Laslett and Claire Barrow. But it's a fantastic achievement and well played, Thomas. Thank you so much for playing, Thomas. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, love watching the video, so it's great to appear in one for once.
Well, it's wonderful to have you and lovely to put a face to a name. So great to have you, Thomas. And we will be back with another edition of Quizzer in a Reasonably Simple Quiz next week. So that was Quizzer in a Reasonably Simple Quiz, and Thomas, his reaction, oh dear, it's me. So there you go, Pam. It's not just you who is concerned about watching and stuff. But Thomas, you did really, really well. So we've had the 3 people go and they've all got 14. Can anybody get 15 or can anybody get 14 in a quicker time than Emma Laslett? If you want to play, email us at allthingsquiz@gmail.com. All right. University Challenge. Kit, I don't know if you got to see University Challenge tonight.
I didn't, sorry.
No, that's fine. I was rather expecting that you might be flooded with people messaging you, etc., which is what often happens in these. So don't worry. We will push on. Now, James, as a former captain of St. John's, do you have much to do with the teams that have come later than you?
Yeah, so I went on the show. I was in my first year of PhD, so I had a few years subsequently where I kind of stepped in at various points in the selection process to help out. It changes year on year depending on who's on the committee running it. It's more or less organised from year to year, but I always offered my services. Sometimes, I remember we ran a quite intense final buzzer round after an initial written test one year where it was 10 people, and I compiled a load of questions from very old University Challenge episodes. Well, I say very old, old in terms of what's on YouTube, but era. Yeah, it was a sort of intense selection process where it was like after 80 questions, just 80 starter questions, the person with the highest score got a place on the team. Then we went for another 20 questions cumulatively to get the next player on the team, and so on. So it was quite a kind of dramatic way of doing it, and it selected a good team. That was the team prior to this one, I think. And this was I involved in the selection. It's been all over the place. What with COVID, I left Cambridge in March 2020 because of that. I was already writing up, but yeah, I get involved also in the because they happened online as well. Of course, the kind of sparring matches between the teams that go on that happen for the teams that have been selected. So I got to know all of these Cambridge teams this year.
Okay. And it was talked about on Twitter as the Cambridge Derby. Is there kind of like an intense rivalry between the teams, or is there kind of a camaraderie and anyone but Oxford kind of attitude?
Well, Trinity Johns is a renowned rivalry within Cambridge. In sports and just in general, the two big rich colleges in the centre of town. But in terms of these teams, saw them playing, hosted a few quizzes, as I said, and yeah, it's generally good camaraderie, and I guess maybe they get to know each other a little less in these kind of in the COVID era where it's trying to organise matches online and things like that. But yeah, as I got, I really enjoyed meeting all of the Cambridge teams that have been on this season. Kind of good standard all round, and nice, pleasant people.
It's good that you can kind of give back and help foster the next generation. Kit, if somebody came up to you who's not a hardened quizzer and said, I'm interested in going on Mastermind, what advice would you give me? What would you say to them?
That's a really good question. Watch lots of quizzes. I started a quiz notebook, I have to admit, of like the the staple general knowledge. And I think for a specialist, pick something you love. Otherwise, you're not going to want to learn it. You've got to love it to learn it. To read something that many times, you've got to be interested in it.
Yeah. Good advice. Thomas, how does that chime with your experience?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I would add that within picking something you love, pick something with not that much to study.
Yes. Yeah.
Always good to have limited questions that can be asked.
Yeah. I mean, I picked 2 historical figures who were dead by 40, so it helps.
Yeah. Now, Thomas, we've heard from James about kind of how he helped St John's prepare and the rivalry. You've been kind of involved in the student quiz bowl scene for a while, and I mean, we're going to move on to University Challenge in a second, but coming up this weekend is the British Student Quiz Championships. Can you just explain, for the benefit of people who have never been involved with that, exactly what that's going to entail?
So the British Student Quiz Championship has been going on and off since the late 1990s. It's run on a quiz bowl format, which is a variation essentially of the University Challenge format, which actually came first. It's essentially, buzzer quiz. The starter questions are a bit longer. The points system is a little bit different. You get 10 points for each bonus part. And we run these tournaments throughout the year at UK Quiz Bowl. And over the last couple of years, we've decided that we were going to have proper qualification for BSQC. We had 4 events throughout the course of the year. We gave birth to the top finishers of last year's championship, and we gave out some wild cards as well, just to top up the field. And it's looking like it's going to be a very exciting one this year. In the past few years, we've had obviously Oxford and Cambridge, who've won every single BSQC combined, bar one. May not quite be so far ahead this time. Oxford have had maybe a couple of departures, and some people will not be able to make it. We haven't received their rosters for Saturday yet. Same can be said for Cambridge. They might be down some key players. Southampton as well, who were contenders in the past, will now have to make do without Evan Lynch. Actually, their team is made up entirely of very new players, although they do have an ace up their sleeve, as James Carnegie is their reserve and may step in. Instead, I think it's going to be quite close between Oxford, Cambridge, but also Imperial are going to be strong contenders. Their A team features Michael Mays and Felix Roberts. Michael Mays currently a University Challenge team captain, but also on their B team they have Fatima Sharif of this year's team, Imran Rahman from last year's team. They've got some very strong players. Warwick, as always, are going to be quite strong. They've got 3 fairly evenly matched teams. Andrew Rout from last year's University Challenge winning team is on that A team, as well as Ethan Webb and Thomas Hart, who was on earlier. Robert Crawley, who's one of possibly the best first-year player this season, certainly, is on their B team. As well as Dylan Patel, Luke Beresford. They've got some very strong players. Edinburgh as well are going to be very strong. And even then, they'll have to make do without Laura Cooper, who is unable to make it down. But they'll still have Ben Russell-Jones off of this series of UC, Nick Winter on that team, Niall Karunaratne also from this year's team, and semi-finalist, I believe, from last year, Holly Parkinson, who was at Durham last year. That's their A team. That's going to be quite strong. I think they'll be a dark horse to win it all. But there's also some very strong contenders to maybe make the just the top half of the field. Durham potentially having their biggest involvement in BSQC ever. They've got 2 full teams with some good players. Harry Scully, Harry Regan, but also Kai Madrick on their B team. They're very good. Nick Yelland as well. Manchester have 2 teams. Their A team is Harry Taylor, Patrick Jones O'Brien. They're going to be a very high stakes team. They tend to come in quite early on the buzzer, so they could claim some scalps. But their B team, as the last we heard, is just going to be a collection of people coming back for one last job, essentially, before finishing their PhD. Alex Antow, Alex Spacey, James Horton. That's going to be one to watch as well if they do come. Dan Hawkins and Jacob McLaughlin will be very strong for Bristol, may come in the top half. I believe both Sean Cairns and Darius Daralis are on this year's erstwhile Glasgow UC team. They'll be representing what is actually so far the only gender-balanced team on the rosters, with Alison Nunciante and Imogen Miller for Glasgow. Another team full of names that watchers of All Things Quiz might recognise is Sheffield, with Andrew Fisher, Danny Lardner, and Lewis Jones all turning up for that, joined by Charlotte Wright and Rachel Hall. And that leaves only Oxford Brookes, who was one of the 5 teams to get a wild card, along with Glasgow, Sheffield, Manchester B, and Imperial C. And that will be their regular nucleus of Close Spinks, Adam Robart, and Richard Kimber. Richard Kimber, who was on their UC team last season, and John Manton as well, who is only in his second quiz tournament, but already made quite a good first impression last time around. So I think it's going to be a very high quality tournament. But the best part about it is it's going to be the first time in 2 years that we've got a tournament in person. The first one since BSQC 2020, which we still hope wasn't a super spreader event.
Well, I mean, it sounds like just the quality of the teams and the names that you're reading out there, it does sound a very, very strong field, a very competitive event. Southampton will be feeling the loss of Evan Lynch, British quiz champion.
But also Ethan Lyon as well. Elliot Miles won't be playing either. They're losing quite a few very good players. Dom Belcher as well.
So in many ways, Student Quiz Bowl sounds very healthy, but there's still some work to do in terms of gender balance, diversity, etc.
Absolutely.
And
that's something we're trying to work on. It's not an easy problem to tackle, but everything that's in our power as a governing body, really, we are aiming to do.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Trying is the first step, and I'm sure there are others who will help out. And if there's anything we can do, All Things Quiz, to help you make student quizzing more diverse, then you only have to ask. We are very supportive of UK Student Quiz Bowl.
Thank you. Much appreciated, and we hope to see some of the outcomes of this Saturday at Imperial College London on next week's shows.
Yeah, brilliant. So tonight's show, it was pretty tight for quite a lot of the match, wasn't it, James? Through to about 2/3, there was nothing between the teams. A lot of kind of toing and froing between them. Watching it, what were how were you seeing the game play out?
Yeah, it was. It could have gone either way, and I knew that from seeing the teams before. I knew they're both strong. It was very close, and yeah, I was a little nervous for Johns, but also, it was, I was supporting Johns, of course, but I liked that Trinity team as well. It was strong. Some good buzzes here and there. A couple of things, maybe slightly slow start. A couple of things like dropping a couple of difficult, kind of obtuse starters early on, I thought. There was
quite a few that went dead, I thought.
Abscissa. I would have guessed the abscissa, but it was a strange way of. I don't think I've heard it quite defined like that before.
Quite a few starters went dead tonight. It felt an unusually unusually large number. I don't know, because obviously I guess that's the edit. But yeah, I counted, I think, at least sort of 8. Thomas, that feels a little bit unusual.
That feels quite high. You do have to bear in mind that this is the stage of the competition where the questions get a bit harder, and they usually do try to remove questions that go completely dead in the edit, but they obviously can't do that if someone buzzes on it before the end, because that affects the scores. So I wonder if that might not have just been really a bad coincidence of a few too many negs, and that those all having to stay in for the edit.
Yeah, possibly. I thought, for me, there were 2 outstanding individual performances on the night. I thought Chan for St John's, a real captain's innings, leading the team by example. Got Greenland Interrobang, Halogen's Histology, Marble, and Kim for Trinity. I thought was superb. The 1510s answer I thought was particularly good. The knowledge of Irish geography with Coven. Thought he was superb. What were your standout
season?
Yeah. What were the standout buzzes for you watching it tonight?
The ones you mentioned, really. What else did we have? Well, I learned something new in Drosophila. Never dawned on me before that means a Jew lover, as in the fruit fly. What else did we have? Well, we had a usual. Can you work out the physics? Do the maths in your head? For the centrifugal force, I forgot the formula. I'm terrible at those.
Those are always very impressive when they do manage to get them right.
Knowing your Italian words, starting letters. I quite like the language ones.
So moving on to or talking about the bonuses, we've talked quite a lot, and it might be boring to some when we talk about diversity and diversifying the kind of the canon in University Challenge. And I thought there was another example tonight where they're doing it without making a show about doing it. 1982 in literature, but they're all black authors. They didn't make a big thing. It wasn't like 1982 in black literature. But it was just put out there, and I thought it was a very nice bonus set.
They're all gettable as well. I mean, I was happy to get Audrey Lorde because I've set Audrey Lorde as an answer in a couple of online quizzes I've run recently, and it also went dead in those ones. But it's definitely one of those names that is gettable. And it was a nice set all round.
Yeah, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Colour Purple, wasn't it, with the other 2? Kit, I'm interested in your perspective as somebody who's interested in quiz but not a hardened quizzer. When you look at quizzes like University Challenge, and have you looked at Mastermind in the past, how have you viewed kind of the breadth and the diversity and the inclusivity of the questions that are asked?
To be honest, as a family, we've never really engaged in University Challenge, I have to say. I mean, I'm the first person in my family to go to university, and I think in our background we just sort of look at the questions and think that's beyond us, sort of thing. So I think that's a great leap to think that a focus on black authors, and I think 3 black female authors as well is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
like you said just then, James, the physics would be absolutely beyond me, but again, sort of ignorant to the caliber of the questions on there. So know there were languages rounds. I think, that's probably more my speed sort of things. I think there is everyone's got their own field, haven't they?
Absolutely, and there's usually no expectation that any one player will get every single one of them. It's a team game fundamentally, so really, all you need to win is that each player knows a quarter of 51% of the answers, and that's really all you need to really win every game.
Mm.
You got, as you said about picking the teams, it's a totally different ball game to Mastermind. You're all on yourself, but I imagine in University Challenge you are playing off each other and to each other's strengths.
Yeah.
And we did see some very good teamwork at times tonight, and a lot of conferring, and perhaps in earlier rounds there's been a lot of kind of critiquing of captaincy, because people have gone straight to somebody they will know the answer. Tonight we didn't have quite so much of that, and there was a lovely moment when Innes from Trinity, when it was the music round, was saying, no, let's hear it all before we give an answer, and it was kind of almost like captaincy from seat 1 rather than from seat 3, and that felt, to be fair, that was a brutally hard music round.
Oh,
It was popular music, and I don't think I'd heard any of the 6 songs. So it's like,
I know several people who would have absolutely bossed that, but personally, I would have struggled on that.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was brutally hard. Songs written by one person, and then another song written by them, performed by somebody else, and named both the people. And there was none of the obvious stuff that you would expect to kind of come out. Like, I don't know, Lappy Sifri or whatever. It's just
I mean, I had heard of all of the answers, but they weren't obvious songs to pick for any of them. I thought.
I kind of love that as a round, because that is where my dad would absolutely flourish, and he's sort of not a wizard, not an academic, and I think that's pretty great to include. It's a bit of a curveball.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was, and it certainly had poor old Trinity kind of cursing when that came their way.
Talking of kind of canon expansion, the Ahara Koson, that's a new artist for me. Didn't know that the Japanese Ahara Koson.
Yeah.
But an interesting way of bringing it in as well, with the identify the bird and the flower.
I thought that was very good, actually. I mean, as a starter, very fair, because it wasn't like Hokusai or something obvious. It was testing deeper knowledge, and then you had to be able to identify both flora and fauna in the bonuses, which I thought was a very nice twist. And I mean, you have after all these years, they're still trying different things and being creative.
And I think part of that is the fact that every series, they have essentially usually a new person who is an added bonus to that production and research team, and that's usually the person they get to do the second picture rounds and the music rounds. So every time that changes, you get essentially a different take on what those rounds can be. And for instance, I think for the upcoming series, it's Lillian Crawford, and that's going to be a very different kind of vibe to what we've had this series. So
yes, Kit, that Lillian. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yes. So Lillian was in Kit's Mastermind heat. Yeah.
It turned out she knows a friend of mine from university. It's like Andy and Wang. It was a whole thing. Yeah. Oh wow, how amazing. Brilliant.
Yes, no, Lillian has been posting some interesting comments actually on Twitter about kind of how she's approaching like music questions and picture questions, etc. And you're right, it's great to get sort of fresh eyes on this and different perspectives on it. And I think, whoever is calling the shots at University Challenge, is making some good decisions at the moment. There are some, some very interesting questions and some greater diversity in the canon. Events of 1981 made me feel horrendously old when I remembered the Spanish attempted coup d'état, because I remember drawing a picture of that when I was at school. So, oh God, that was 1981. I would have put it later anyway. But not all about me. Catherine says, got 3 birds, 2 flowers in the bonuses. Gerard, I like the format of the bird flower question, but was useless at it. Gerard also says, like a bit of pop, but that round drew blanks. It was a good range, sinkings and volcanoes and diseases and their vectors. I really enjoyed it. What do you think, James, was ultimately the difference between the two teams, which felt for most of the match pretty well aligned with one another?
Yeah, I think it was just a few well placed buzzes toward the end there. I think I think John's just picked up the pace slightly more toward the end. There, early on there was maybe a little more hesitancy on the buzzer, which then picked up, and several of the members of the St John's team got some good buzzes later on.
Yeah. So we've got Imperial and Edinburgh already through to the semi-finals. Johns have given themselves a chance, but they need to win another one. Reading need to win another one. I can't remember who else is left, but it's getting down to kind of death or glory time now. So we will see how Johns do. But right now, I'm going to just quickly whiz through Quiz Week and the nominations. We'll pop Kit, Thomas, and James back into the waiting area. But when we come back, I will ask you all for your champagne moment of the evening, which can be anything you like, including something you're involved with, Kit, if that is your champagne moment. So see you in a few minutes' time. Okay, so Quiz Week updates from All Things Quiz. Winner of Quizzer of the Week last week was Lewis Jones for his 15 out of 15 in the Pop Culture Challenge. Tony Walmsley came second, Scott Blish third. Winner of Team of the Week was the String section in the Connections Online Quiz League. They are also, of course, Only Connect Series champions of the past. Second is Lovecraft in a Time of Cholera, who at the time were topping OQL UK despite being American. And third were All Sorts from Quiz League of London. Don't forget, you can nominate a player or a team for Quiz of the Week and Quiz Team of the Week at tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. Very simple form. Fill it in, and we'll include these next week. In our What is the Question competition, the answer was Gust, and Dave McBrien won with the question, what is the only English word that could be formed by removing the symbol for a chemical element from the beginning of a month? Well done to Dave. The current competition is smoke. Smoke is the answer. We released that on Sunday. And you can now vote on a long list of over 30 questions to get down to a short list. So vote at tinyurl.com/WITQ smoke. The voting is open now. You saw it earlier, Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz. We need some more quizzes to play this fun and frantic game. So email allthingsquiz@gmail.com if you want to play. And we did a short preview video for the Mastermind semi-finals. So if you want to see the runners and riders, we've had one semi-final, but see if that went to form, and have a look at the contestants we've yet to see. So look at that semi-final preview on All Things Quiz. And also, don't forget, we released things every quizzer should try to learn about Chinese dynasties, which had people seen it before last week's OQL matches could have earned them at least 5 points. So look out for that very useful video to be watching. And don't forget, we are still trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting perilously close now. We're at 966 the last time I looked. So will we get there before my birthday in April? Make it a very happy birthday for me. Like our videos and subscribe to us if you're not already subscribed. All of that will help other people like you to be recommended our videos by the YouTube algorithm, and will make it more likely that we will cross that millennium mark. So, news from the world of quiz. The Quizzing World Cup, the final of it was played this weekend, and it saw a convincing victory for Astor Teen Hunger Force of America against Australia Gold from Down Under. There was really only ever one team in it, and while we know that Australia Gold are a fine team, Astor Teen Hunger Force was simply unstoppable, coming out 54-37 victors. Congratulations to Yogesh Rao, Tim Polly, Victoria Gross, and Troy Meyer on their victory, and of course they get nominated for Quiz Team of the Week. And a heads up that this weekend sees another Quest Grand Prix, this time with a limited number of venues in the UK. At the Northampton venue, the afternoon will see the resumption of the annual Neil Phillips Memorial Music Quiz. Neil was the loveliest of men. We miss him, and it's a fitting way to remember him. And you can sign up at quest.quizzing.com. In the OQL, the only full house of the week was by Dave McBrien of Central Belters. He takes a nomination, and a nomination from Team of the Week goes to Mangoes, who toppled Lovecraft at the Time of Cholera from the top of the table. Quiz Machine Kills Fascists took advantage and now lead the way in Division 1. Let me just change that. There we go. In OQL USA, there were 2 full houses in OQL USA this week and something of a Mexican food theme. The full houses went to Scott Blish of Taco Belly Rubs and June Park of Nacho Love. And they may still be sitting in second in Division 1, looking for an overtaking opportunity, but Neutral MILF Hotel were back at their best this week and are waiting for the Wednesday Academic Purists to slip up. But the team performance of the week goes to Chew Bacchanalia for their win over Plush Toy the Apocalypse. In the Pop Culture Challenge, Matt Williams was the top performing player this week on his own questions. He got 14 out of 15 and takes a nomination. While in the American equivalent Pop Solos, there were 2 people who got 13 out of 15 on their own questions, Jeffrey Siguraton and Dave Plotkin. They get nominations. In the QLL, team performance of the week came from Victoria Phoenix. They started Tuesday at the bottom of Division 2 and faced top of the table Misfits away from home, but a miserly team display led to a giant killing, and Phoenix rose 1 place out of the ashes with a single-point win over the league leaders. Lots of players scored 7-2s, so the nomination goes to the lowest placed player who got 7-2s, and that was Nick Hutchins of Green Gage in Division 3, who got a score of 27. In the President's Cup, Sussex can count themselves fortunate to have kept their winning run-up at the top of the table. Their scratchy 37 points was lower than any of the other scores in the weekend's other games, but nonetheless, their lead is now 7 points. Team performance of the week was from Westminster, who get a nomination, and the 2 best performances of the week came from the Westminster v Islington match, and they were Jonathan Gibson and Paul Sinha, who both get nominations. In week 3 of Mimi as well, there was a clean winner in the race to get nominated for Quiz of the Week, and that was Dylan Minerick, who got all 15 of his questions correct. In the Connections Online Quiz League, in week 2, the highest scoring team was the Zoomsbury Group. Regular viewers of Quizzy Monday will have seen 3 of their team on our show this series, Fatima Sharif, Michael Cohn, and Michael Hutchinson. Quiz Bowl this weekend is a British Student Quiz Championships. Best of luck to all the teams, and we will have news from that next week. And in Merseyside, Warrington still sit atop the Merseyside Quiz League's President's Trophy table, despite not playing. Southport and Formby move into second after 2 wins and take a nomination. But Warrington have 2 games in hand. Liverpool and Ormskirk both won, and Ormskirk are only a point behind Warrington, having played the same number of games. So it now looks like a 3-horse race between Southport and Formby, Warrington and Ormskirk. The top player of the week was Jim Eccleston, who scored 33 points across 2 matches. On TV and radio tonight, we saw Ian Wang win Mastermind. Congratulations to him. St John's win University Challenge. And on Counterpoint, Frankie Fanco won her semi-final by 8 clear points, so Frankie gets a nomination. So now a recap of all of the nominations. And they are for Quizzer of the Week: Scott Blish, Jim Eccleston, Frankie Fanco, Jonathan Gibson, Nick Hutchings, Dave McBrien, Dylan Minerick, June Pack, David Plotkin, Jeffrey Sigurton, Paul Sinha, and Matt Williams. And for Team of the Week, Astor Teen Hunger Force, Chew Bacchanalia, Mango, Southport and Formby, Victoria Phoenix, Westminster, and the Zoomsbury Group. The vote is now open at tinyurl.com/QW28Feb. That's tinyurl.com/QW28Feb. Don't forget, the voting closes on Friday evening. So let's go back to the remainder of our show and bring back Kit, James, and Thomas, who are remarkably still in the same place. So a packed evening of good quizzing and a packed week of great quiz that we've just reflected on. But what was the champagne moment of the evening? Thomas, let's start with you.
I mean, there are a few contenders, but my absolute pick has to be hearing Jeremy Paxman say "Vroom Vroom" by Charlie XCX.
Okay, Vroom Vroom. Nice. James, how about you?
Well, I was going to say Gingham Joe, but we've extensively talked about Gingham Joe. It was very good. It was the exact form of the answer that we needed.
Indeed. And Kit, how about you?
I would say Gingham Joe, and I was quite proud of being able to say sex with a straight face on the BBC.
Always a win. Yeah, I'm Gingham Joe as well. I have to say, I mean, I enjoyed the joy that I saw on the faces of Kit and Ian, particularly when you're answering subjects that you loved, and I really like to see that. You know, it's no slight on those who are kind of game-faced, and I was more of a game-faced kind of player, but it is really nice when you see somebody really enjoying what they're doing. But Gingham Joe was just, yeah, that was my favourite. So that was the week that was. We've got a few comments here. Gerard is saying, I'm actually doing a GP quiz in Northampton for the first time in 2 years. Your brother Andrew will be trying his first ever such quiz and will be trying not to come last. Well, it'd be good to meet your brother, Gerard.
It's a noble goal.
Sorry?
It's a noble goal for a first time, to be honest.
It really is, yes.
Very good. Best of luck to him.
Yeah. Dave McBrien just beat me in PCC, so voting for him. It's all about me, says Chris Dyson. And Chris also goes, go Phoenix. I think something that we can all wholeheartedly get behind, particularly those of us who are in that team. Anyway, so that was the week in quiz. A great week. Congratulations to those who won tonight, Ian and St. John's. But congratulations, Kit, for what has been a very, very good debut in the world of TV quizzing. And also we're delighted that you've been able to join us on our show twice. It's been an absolute bonus and a joy to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Good. Great also to see Thomas and James back again. We are back next week, of course. We are through to the end of the series. We have, see, this is where my prep lets me down. We do have somebody from the Mastermind semi-final. I just don't have a note of who it is. But we have people for every Mastermind semi-final coming on. And then hopefully we'll have a good few who make the final as well. But I don't know what happens. Yeah, look out for that next week. And we will also be trying to get people from the University Challenge. But whatever happens, we will have another top-notch lineup of people. We have a top-notch lineup of people watching tonight. So thank you for everybody who watched and commented and still chucking in your comments and talking amongst yourself. That is great. We will be back next week. Don't forget to vote for Quizzer of the Week and Quiz Team of the Week. I'll put the links in the description afterwards. But until then, have a fantastic week. Look after yourselves. And again, best wishes to Vadim Bondar in Kharkiv in Ukraine. And we hope we see him again very, very soon. But for now, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.